Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into one of the most fascinating concepts in human history, the ultimate adversary. For thousands of years, humanity has grappled with the idea of a supreme evil force. Now, most of us are pretty familiar with the Abrahamic concept of the devil, right? The great tempter, the fallen angel. But what if I told you that, ages ago, another major world religion envisioned the embodiment of evil in a radically different way? It absolutely changes how you look at the concept of good and evil. Let's get right into it.
So where did our modern concept of the devil actually come from? Well, it's a question philosophers and theologians have debated for millennia. Long before the familiar narratives of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam really locked into their current shapes, an ancient Persian faith called Zoroastrianism was already conceptualizing cosmic evil. Originating with the prophet Zarathustra, or Zoroastra, around 3,500 years ago, this religion introduced a stark dualistic view of the universe. And let me tell you, their version of the ultimate bad guy was fundamentally distinct from the one most people recognize today. And that brings us exactly to our core focus today, the profound differences between the devil and Ahriman across these religious sites. If we put them side by side, the contrast is wild. On the one hand, we have the Abrahamic devil, traditionally understood as a created being, a fallen angel who rebelled against God and now tempts humanity. On the other hand, we have the Zoroastrian adversary, Ahriman, who is an independent, parasitic, and entirely destructive spirit. They both represent cosmic evil, for sure, but they operate on completely different theological engines.
Section 1. Defining the adversary, the spirit of destruction. Let's look at exactly who Ahriman is within this ancient framework.
In the ancient Avestan language, this force is known as Angramenyu, which later became Ahriman in Middle Persian. He is literally the destructive spirit. In Zoroastrianism, you have the supreme, all-knowing, and uncreated god named Ahura Mazda, the wise lord, who lives in infinite light. Ahriman is his absolute, total antithesis, dwelling down in the depths of primordial darkness. He isn't some servant who went rogue. No way. He is the independent embodiment of evil, ignorance, and deceit. He is the very essence of destruction.
To really capture the sheer primal nature of this conflict, listen to this quote from the Gathas, the sacred hymns composed by the prophet Zoroaster himself. It says, "And when together did these spirits twain foregather at creation's early dawn, life did one make, the other made not life." I just love how clear that is. It perfectly encapsulates Ahriman's nature. He doesn't just oppose life, he literally generates not life. He's the void, the negative space locked in a foundational clash with the spirit of good.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to understand the concepts of Asha and Druj. Think of Asha as the cosmic order, the truth, the light upheld by Ahura Mazda. It's the blueprint for a perfectly harmonious universe. Ahriman, conversely, is the ultimate embodiment of Druj, which translates to the lie, or chaos and deceit. Everything Ahriman does is a desperate attempt to disrupt Asha. He is the ultimate lie trying to unmake the truth of existence.
Moving right along to Section 2, Origins, Uncreated versus Fallen. This highlights a major theological split that changes everything.
When you compare where these two came from, the differences are absolutely stark. As we touched on, the Abrahamic devil is typically a created being who fell from grace, meaning he is ultimately subordinate to God's supreme power. But Orthodox Zoroastrianism views Ahriman entirely differently. He is an uncreated, independent force that just existed in darkness from the very beginning. He was not made by Ahura Mazda. And this actually solves a huge philosophical problem. See, if God is absolutely good, he cannot be the creator of evil, not even indirectly through a fallen angel. Evil just has its own, completely separate, uncreated origin.
Now, having two totally uncreated beings running around was conceptually a bit much for some people, which led to some pretty fascinating historical workarounds. There was an extinct sect called Zurvanism that tried to soften this intense dualism. They proposed that Ahura Mazda and Ahriman were actually twin brothers, created by an even higher, neutral entity called Zurvan, which means time. But Orthodox Zoroastrians firmly condemned this as a heresy because it compromised Ahura Mazda's status as the one uncreated supreme creator.
Let's move to Section 3, the nature of evil, parasite versus tempter. This is where we see how these figures actually interact with the physical world. Because Ahriman is the spirit of not life, he actually lacks the power to create anything original. He is, essentially, a cosmic parasite. When Ahura Mazda created the perfect material world, Ahriman attacked it by introducing what are called counter-creations. He couldn't make his own world, so he just corrupted the good one. He introduced sickness and disease,
harsh freezing winters. He spawned noxious creatures like venomous snakes and stinging flies. He even warped the originally flat, peaceful Earth into violent, jagged mountains. And, most devastatingly of all, he introduced death itself. The devil is often seen as a tempter of souls, but Ahriman is a polluter of the very fabric of nature.
So where do we fit into all of this? Well, in Zoroastrianism, human beings are not just pawns on a chessboard. We are active co-workers with Ahura Mazda. Because evil is a parasite corrupting the physical world, it is literally our duty to fight it. We're granted profound free will, and the religion demands that we choose Asha over Druj through Humata, Hukta, and Khwarshta. That means good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Every single time you tell the truth, help someone out, or even take care of the environment, you are actively repelling Ahriman's corruption and helping to heal the world.
But hey, this war isn't endless. Section 4, the cosmic struggle. The 12,000-year cycle. Ahriman's campaign actually has a strict expiration date.
Zoroastrian cosmological texts lay out this massive 12,000-year cycle for the universe. It's like a giant cosmic clock. It kicks off with 3,000 years of purely spiritual creation by Ahura Mazda. Then, 3,000 years of perfect material creation, where Ahriman is basically knocked out cold in a stupor. But when he finally wakes up, he attacks, plunging us into the current era, the mixture, where good and evil are all tangled together in the physical universe. But here's the catch. By invading the physical universe, Ahriman made a fatal mistake. He became trapped in finite time. The final 3,000 years are called the separation, which is the gradual defeat of evil, leading straight to Ahriman's ultimate doom.
Which brings us to the end of time. Section 5, the final judgment. Eradication versus damnation. This is the most profound philosophical difference of all.
What is truly fascinating here is the stark contrast in how evil is ultimately dealt with at the end. In many Abrahamic faiths, the end times involve a last judgment, where the devil is cast into a lake of fire to suffer eternal damnation. Evil still exists, it's just locked away in a state of eternal punishment forever. But for Ahriman, the endgame is frashokarity, a total cosmic renovation. Ahriman isn't eternally punished, he is entirely eradicated. Poof, he is completely wiped from existence. Let's break down this concept of frashokarity because it's genuinely beautiful. It represents the final renovation of the universe. In this Zoroastrian worldview, evil is irrevocably destroyed. A savior figure appears, the dead are resurrected, and this great river of molten metal purifies absolutely everything. And get this, for the righteous, this molten metal just feels like warm milk, but for the wicked, it burns away their impurities. The key takeaway here, the goal is purification, not punishment. Creation is restored back to its original, perfect state, completely free of Ahriman's taint forever.
This quote from the source material brilliantly captures the ultimate optimism of the Zoroastrian worldview. Hell in the Zoroastrian system is ultimately emptied. It is not an escape from the physical world, but its completion. Think about that for a second. Suffering is not eternal. Evil is not eternal. Ahura Mazda's original perfect physical creation wins in the end. The physical world isn't something dirty to be discarded. It is something sacred to be healed and perfected.
So that leaves us with a pretty incredible thought to ponder. If we view evil not as an eternal rebellious equal that will just exist forever in some state of damnation, but rather as a finite, uncreative parasite that is absolutely destined to be wiped out, does that change how we fight it today? Does seeing ourselves as essential co-workers in a temporary battle give a totally different weight to our good thoughts, good words, and good deeds? It's a remarkably empowering way to view our own moral responsibilities. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today, and keep exploring these big ideas.